Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I would like to introduce the next session, a fireside chat titled Talent Has No Borders. Ilir Sela, founder and CEO at Slice, and Bojana Kiseloski, a member of our Ambassadors Club, I would like to welcome you on stage. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you all for attending this fireside chat, both in person and through Zoom. We've titled it as Talent Has No Borders, a very contemporary title. But before we dive into it, I would like to introduce Ilir and give a short perspective on what we're going to discuss. So for those of you who don't know, Ilir is the founding CEO of Slice, the app that tapped into $46 billion US pizza market by providing small pizzerias across the United States with digital support. Slice has around 1,000 employees now, which many of them are based here in Macedonia, which is awesome. They've raised $125 million total funding and found themselves on the world's most innovative companies list in 2021, ranking 5th in the dining category. They also recently welcomed Dick Costolo, the former CEO of Twitter, as the recent investor, which is very cool. But what's more cool is that Ilir is born here in Macedonia, but grew up in the States, which makes him indeed the true epitome of talent has no borders. Ilir, welcome. It's great having you here today with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Really happy to be here. Thank you so much for including me today. Excited to have a conversation about talent and obviously our journey with Slice. And huge thank you to our team at Slice, many of whom are here. And none of it is really possible without our leadership team here. And I'm really proud of them.
Thank you, Ilir. Now, talking about talent, I know you hold Macedonian talent in very high regard. You've bet on it hugely, especially at the beginning. In many ways, you gave them the opportunity to realize their potential by providing the know-how from the States here. Can you speak about that for a moment, if you will?
Yeah, look, I was born here. I was born in what was then Yugoslavia, now Macedonia. Moved to the U.S. when I was 10 years old. And my family's always been in the small business industry, so just very entrepreneurial. My father, my parents just generally always, drove myself and my brothers to be business owners. And when I launched this company, one of the first visits I made was back to Macedonia. My family's from Debar. Went there and look, for me, the realization is that I'm from here. Education is instilled in everybody in this country. Hospitality, thoughtfulness, positivity. And so it was a super easy decision to make to start hiring folks here, because one of the things that I knew for sure, including family members, were incredibly dedicated to education and learning and the willingness to sort of work, but there was just no opportunities. And so literally from day one, my entire sort of strategy in business has been talent has no borders, but opportunities do. And so for me, it was about breaking down the borders of opportunity and start investing in talent here. And that's been made possible tremendously by low barriers to entry as technology and video conferencing. And our team will laugh about this, but we use Slack at Slice. And everyone's kind of there, and we're all communicating in real time. And so really, there's no more borders to talent. And so, journey started in 2010, and here we are with a team of over 700 in Macedonia.
Awesome. I love that. Now, speaking about talent, speaking about potential, it all somehow leads us to education. There's an ongoing debate lately. Public schools are obviously lagging behind modern business needs, and on the other hand, short, just-in-time programs where you can learn and employ skills right away are on the rise. Now, from an employer perspective, where do you think we should put our focus on?
It's a great question. So I think there's a purpose for each one. For me, the importance of school, regardless of the programs, which obviously are super important, but school for me is about the foundation that it provides to everybody. So there's a foundation that's set in students early on in their age, and it teaches us responsibility, it teaches us discipline, teaches us to make sure that we show up to class on time. If we have homework, that we have to do the work that's required. For me, school is much more about that, plus sort of the foundational subjects, math, science, reading, writing. That is just so important, and that serves a purpose. In terms of specialization, certainly I think schools have to be really open-minded about the way the world is moving and continue to embrace programs that are all about whether it's business or financial literacy, which I think is a big opportunity. And then there's always going to be, I think, just dedicated programs and technical schools, for lack of a better term, that will probably address the specific needs that are required in the job market. But my belief is that anyone who's looking for work, the best education you can get is joining a company that's growing really fast in any role. It doesn't matter. Customer service, sales is actually a very good place to start. So even if, in my opinion, even if I have an engineering degree, and there was an open role in sales in a company that's growing fast, I would take that role immediately, and that'll become really your more practical, specific education in terms of what's required to make it in the job market, because it's a moving target. Things progress very fast, and you can very quickly be outdated if you're not in that world. So I think, for me, it's all about build a foundation, get your sort of most critical aspects, critical skills really refined, and then if you want to enter the job market, join any company that's growing really fast in any role, and then you'll figure it out once you're in it.
Great, I love that. I'm a huge consumer of those online short programs, so I'm glad you said that. Moving to leadership. In many companies, we see more of a distributed type of leadership where great leaders act more like coaches instead of all-powerful people directors. How would you describe leadership today?
Leadership is, it needs to be a very agile role, because when the company's smaller, there's certain aspects to leadership that are really important. Really setting a vision, setting a path that's super clear and focused. Obviously continuing to focus on that as the company grows. And then once the company scales, leadership is all about empowering other leaders in the company. I like to think that I'm the least knowledgeable person at Slice today, because that means we keep hiring better people, every single day. So each person should be hiring someone who's better than them. In essence, our job is to make ourselves dispensable. And so for me, it's really about empowering our leaders, but my job as a leader is really just threefold. One is, does the company know exactly where we're going from a vision and a mission standpoint? That needs to be very clear, and we as leaders, in my role, I have to challenge that thinking every year and adjust as the world adjusts. Two, recruiting best-in-class talent. Nothing is possible without a world-class team, and I'm thankful for our team at Slice, and we are where we are because of our team. In sports, the name on the jersey doesn't matter. No team will be great without, great talent. And then, the third one's kind of easy, which is just never run out of money. So vision, talent, just don't run out of money.
Great. Now, and if you have to choose only one all-purpose leadership instrument, what would it be?
It's the one I'm working on the most consistently, which is active listening. I think leaders, we're sort of taught to listen, and so a lot of people do it just because you're supposed to listen, and they just kind of wait for someone to finish talking, but they haven't really listened. They haven't heard what the person said and why. Active listening, I think, is one of the most important qualities that any leader or any person can have. Something that I'm continuing to learn. I was not good at it a few years ago. our team knows about that. But yeah, I would say that's most important.
Great. Now, this is my favorite question. You talk about authenticity a lot and the importance of being authentic. How would you describe why it's so important and
authenticity is, it's, what I see is too many people trying to copy other people or think analogously. Analogous, so like, something exists and then people kind of see that thing and then they say, okay, I'm going to make it slightly better. And everything's somewhat of an iteration of the other. So there's a lot of iterative thinking, iterative progress in the world, which I think is important, but it's the result of a lot of people or companies or teams who want to be like someone else. And that is the recipe for disaster, because usually what happens is you're kind of last or you're following a trend, and if you're just doing something because somebody else is doing it, then that means you're not really sort of the leader in the space, or you're not grounded in first principles. And so authenticity for me is about critical thinking, being yourself. There's only one person who's you, that's you. And if you can unlock that potential and be able to tell your story, your own personal story, and connect it to the things that you're doing and why you're doing them, then that becomes very powerful, because no one can copy you. Like, there's no competition to authenticity. I have a twin brother, so maybe there's two of me, but for most people, there aren't two of you. So I think for that reason, it's just so important. And for Slice, we focus on the most independent small businesses who are very authentic. In our space, you have Domino's. I passed one by when we were coming here, and Domino's is not authentic. Every single location is the same. And then there's the local pizza shops that are very authentic. Every single one is unique and has its own different recipe and unique recipe. And we want to be able to empower those businesses so that authenticity in our space continues to thrive. But there's so many reasons why authenticity is just, I think, the most important quality. But it's hard, because it's hard to, I think, give yourself permission to think for yourself, but then also speak out for yourself.
Great, thank you. Now, it's very hard to imagine a straight line to success. I'm sure you had your own share of twists and turns as your company was taking off. Can you tell us how you've managed to overcome those, and what's your general mindset when it comes to challenges?
Yeah, I love challenges, by the way. My favorite thing is when something goes wrong, because you just kind of, it's an opportunity to figure out how to make it better, or really dig in, and kind of understand and learn more about the resilience of the business. But it creates resiliency. Yeah, look, we've had a journey of about 12 years. The first 6 years, I bootstrapped the company, meaning, we didn't have any outside funding. And there were a ton of challenges. Like, most of our team was in Macedonia, and we were in this little office, and we didn't really have much internet or great electricity, so the power would go out. And then we couldn't serve our customers, and so our team would go and get gasoline and turn on some motor with their hand, and or internet would go out. It was just really tactical things like that, all the way to there's talent challenges, you lose talent maybe, or there's global macro sort of challenges. But I think what I've learned is when you're doing something authentically for the purpose of the mission, I didn't start this company to make money. I started the company to solve a problem and to enjoy the ride. The journey is so important. And so when you take that approach, when things go really well, we've raised a ton of money, we've accomplished, we just crossed $1 billion in sales, and that's great, and we celebrate, but you don't get too high. And then when something goes wrong, you don't get too low, because it's exactly that. It's a journey, and I don't know. My favorite thing is when things go wrong, because it also brings our team together. There's so many examples of our team dropping everything to solve a problem. I'm going to tell one last story about this.
Yeah.
First time ever, investors are so excited to invest in Slice, and I said, in order for you to invest, you have to come visit Macedonia. So they come visit Macedonia.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we come together, and for whatever reason, the night we arrive, our entire internet went out, and like the whole thing just completely broke. And there was a backlog of, just a big backlog of work. And our team was out, it was like midnight, there was people out at bars and all that good stuff. And what happened was pretty quickly, the entire team came back to the office. Some of them with drinks, some of them not, but everyone came back to the office, and as soon as the internet went up, it was a full-on team effort, regardless of role. Everyone jumped on, and everyone helped to solve this one specific problem around customer service. And everyone was panicking because they were like, maybe investors aren't going to really invest in us. And I was actually smiling because it was actually the very reason why investors decided to invest in Slices, not because of the problem, but what happened after.
Yeah, the solution.
So that's a very specific example of when something goes wrong.
Thank you. Now, if you had one do-over in the last, let's say, 3 years, what would you do over?
What would I do over? I don't, nothing. I don't think like that. I don't, my brain, like right now we're moving forward. We have to learn from the past, but you know, I don't know that I would really do anything over. That doesn't mean that I didn't make a lot of mistakes, for sure, but I'm grateful for them. And again, I think that's sort of the mentality we've sort of taken, and it allows us to also try more things, because then, you know, we're not really too scared or afraid to make some of those mistakes. By the way, this was one of the challenges we had as a company, because initially I was like such a perfectionist, and I realized I was paralyzing our company from trying new things, and now I'm just looking forward. Yeah, no do-overs.
Great mindset.
Yeah.
Now, we are running out of time, and in my last question, I'm going to refer to an interview you gave for a U.S. newspaper, describing the transition from the small city of Debar with no single traffic light to seeing the lights in the Big Apple in New York as the plane was descending as one of your most memorable childhood memories. Now, we're still here. In many ways with traffic lights here and there, given given the small country that we are, the limited resources that we have, trying to lead up, trying to figure out ways on how to improve and catch up with the rest of the world. Now, for you having perspective on both sides, is there any advice you would like to share with us, especially the younger generations? I see them in the back.
Yeah, look, I my family lived in New York, and then they moved to Macedonia, then they moved back. And so when we moved back, I was 10 years old, moved from here, was landing in JFK, and yeah, you look out the window and it's like it's like magic, it's literally magic. And the one thing I remember my dad telling me is, you know, what a shame it would be to waste this opportunity, right? Like you look out the window and you're like, anything is possible. And that's been sort of instilled in me through those conversations with my parents and family. And I think if you fast forward today, the world has changed because the lights that I saw from the windows of the airplane are now on 24/7 through technology, on the internet. That possibility is there for anyone who wants to take advantage of it. So whatever I was looking out the window from an airplane, you can turn on your computer and connect to the internet, and those same possibilities exist for everybody. And, you know, I would say that's sort of the approach I would take to going for it. And look, one of the things I've always done is just put myself out there. You know, nothing will happen if you don't try, if you don't apply for a job or start a company if that's what you want to do. But it starts with like acting on it, taking a step forward. But I think to the whole world, the great equalizer is the internet, is technology. You know, this is what makes Slice possible with you know, with our team in Macedonia. We have a team in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and we have a team in the U.S. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Thank you so much, Ilir, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.